My name is Ricardo Castro. I'm from Porto, Portugal. I work for a company called FanDuel, which if you live in the UK, you probably know some of our sister companies like Betfair, Paddy Power Betfair, PokerStars. So we operate in the betting space, gaming space. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about some misconception that I've been hearing a lot on a little bit on conferences, meetups, people just talking with friends. And it's this idea that DevOps dead, right? So we have new shiny stuff, SRE, platform engineering, whatever it is. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about this and to tell you that DevOps it's alive, it's well, and it's critical for software success. So let's see, what do I mean by this? So what will we be covering today? So we're going to talk a little bit about DevOps and basically it not being dead and why it's important. And we'll briefly touch upon platform engineering and what might be the relationship between DevOps and platform engineering. So let's dive in. So you may have been at meetups, talking with friends, conferences, and you've heard stuff like DevOps is dead. Platform engineering is the new DevOps. But let me set the record straight. So first, it isn't dead. And second, these are not mutually exclusive ideas. So DevOps or platform engineering or whoever it may be is not here to replace DevOps. So DevOps is not on its deathbed, and platform engineering, it's not its replacement. One of the primary reasons that this misconception might exist may be due to the popularity of new emerging practices like SRE or platform engineering that might lead some people into the idea that, oh, there's this new shiny thing, so it's here to replace DevOps. But to really understand why this misconception might exist, we need to go a little bit deeper. Let's do that. So several factors can contribute to this misconception of DevOps being dead. First and foremost, it's the fact that a lot of people never got to understand what DevOps is all about, never got to understand what problems it tried to solve, never tried to understand why DevOps existed. So the term was coined 15 years ago. So actually this year in Ghent was the 15th anniversary of the DevOps Days first conference and the term being officially coined, although some people have been using it for a long time. So if you don't understand the concept and the ideas behind a certain concept, it's much easier to jump from concept to concept and say, oh, this is the new thing, this is the new thing, this is the new thing. Second, and we'll see this in a bit, DevOps is a lot more rooted in culture than it is on tools and on processes, right? And culture change is hard, right? If you have been in a company for many years and stuff happening, changing the culture is not easy. So it's a lot easier if something comes along and promises everything in the world, and you just, okay, this is the new thing that I should adopt. Third, the sheer number of so-called, what I call them, DevOps tools is so big. Many of them are so complex that people are like, okay, I can't even fathom what people are saying that I need to do. So it gets really easy just to dismiss and say, oh, this new thing, platform engineering, tells me exactly what I need to do. So it's easier to say, okay, this is like probably the evolution of what DevOps should be. Additionally, the excitement around just the simple excitement around new practices, a new shiny thing could lead to say, okay, this is the new thing that will deprecate the previous thing. And last but not least, not understanding the relationship between this practice, how DevOps, SRE, and platform engineering can work together, can lead to this confusion of saying this is the next iteration and the old thing is basically that. So we've probably seen something like this, right? The proverbial wall of confusion of developers throwing stuff at ops and saying, I developed the code, you run this in production, your problem now, right? So we've all seen this approach. But at its heart, DevOps is not about specific tools, right? It's a different approach on how we develop and deliver software. It's more about a mindset and a culture that emphasizes that this shouldn't happen. No, it's not the responsibility of developers to just develop code, and it's not the responsibility of ops just running code in production. Over time, what we realized over these last 15 years is that dev and ops are not the only ones that are involved in software development lifecycle. So we've extended these practices in quality engineering, security, and everything. So in an ideal world, what DevOps envisions is a culture where teams are working together side by side and they collaborate, they share experiences, and at the end of the day, they are all responsible for the good delivery of software and that they run in production. It's also important to note that this proverbial wall doesn't work only in one direction, right? So there's sometimes people confusing, oh, devs just throw stuff at ops. It's not the case. Ops also throws stuff at devs. Security also throws stuff at devs. So this happens both ways. So basically, this is the essence of DevOps. It's the idea that we are not working in isolation. I'm not responsible for writing the code. Someone else is responsible for running it. It's this idea of collaboration. So DevOps, what does it encourage us? It encourages us open communication, frequent feedback loops, and a sense shared of ownership. This is super important. It leads to a more holistic understanding of how we build and how we deploy software and how we run it in production. Another crucial and very important concept in DevOps is automation. So it's this idea that we get repetitive tasks, stuff that we need to do manually, and we automate those. So teams with a DevOps mindset, they identify these problems, automate them, leaving them then the space to actually do some innovation work, bug fixing, whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, DevOps is about fostering this culture of continuous improvement. Embracing feedbacks, learning from mistakes, constantly iterating will allow teams to deliver software that actually meets what our users want for. And the cultural shift is what will drive this change. It's important to note that DevOps is not static. So DevOps is a set of principles, a set of ideas, and at its essence, it will evolve with times. It's important to note that DevOps was coined, or the term was coined 15 years ago, and from then we had the emergence of cloud computing and more recently AI, right? And it's not because of those things have appeared that DevOps started to be relevant. So DevOps needed to continuously adapt to new challenges and continue to foster this culture of collaboration, automation, and continuous improvement. And in today's fast software landscape, these are more important than ever. They remain essential and they will need to evolve with times. So the takeaway for this slide is that no matter where you started or where the point that you are in your DevOps journey, DevOps is not a thing that you do once and it's done, right? It's a journey that will go on and so forth. But here comes the reality. All of this is easier said than done, right? So embarking on the DevOps transformation, it's not without its challenges, as I am sure many of you can attest to that, right? It's a journey, and like any journey, it has its setbacks, it has its difficulties, but we can address them. So what are probably the most common things that we face? First one that we alluded before, right? It's about cultural resistance. So you see this new practice, you wanted to put it on board, but you've been working the same way, or the organization has been working the same way for the last 10, 15 years. So shifting this culture and this mindset requires breaking down the traditional silos that already exist and forcing a new way of work, forcing this collaboration between teams. This can be met with resistance because some individuals will be used to working in a certain way, working in isolation, and others will just fear change by the sake of change. They don't want to change how things are done. And this is probably the most difficult challenge to take when you're trying to embrace a DevOps culture. Changing culture is hard. Another challenge is the skills gap. So DevOps as a whole requires a diverse skill set, everything from development, operation, testing, security. So there's a lot that goes into having a mindset of DevOps and a holistic approach. So organizations will probably need to invest in training or hire individuals that can bring some of this institutional knowledge to the institution. And as I mentioned before, the sheer number and complexity of DevOps tools can just by itself be daunting. There's so many options available. Just choosing the right tool chain and making it work for within our context can be a daunting task just by itself. General principles that can be applied to more things than just DevOps, but what could be the things that we can do to actually overcoming some of these challenges? As we usually talk, just start small, right? Just pick one project, pick one team, work from there. Try to understand the problem that we're trying to solve, make it at a small scale, learn, iterate, then expand. A lot of focus on culture. I've been saying this for the past few slides, and this is probably the most important thing around DevOps. It's to foster a culture of collaboration, open communication, and most of all, shared ownership. It's not the fault of ops, it's not the fault of developers. We all are contributing to this shared goal. We need to encourage experimentation and learning from mistakes. It's the idea that we will make mistakes, we will all do it, we will learn from them, and we'll fix them. Like I said in the previous slide, we probably need to invest in training, right? We shouldn't expect that we someday make a decision, we're going to start using this tool or this practice, and people should learn stuff on their own. So organizations need to carve out time in people's schedules or provide formal training on a bunch of things. A little bit on tools. You should use the right tools. And what I mean by this is not necessarily I should use this tool because it's popular, right? Popular is just an indication and something that we can use as a signal to say, okay, maybe a lot of teams or a lot of organizations are using this specific tool, for example, Kubernetes, Argo CD, whatever it may be, but that doesn't mean that it worked for us. So it's understanding the problem that we are trying to solve and then choosing the tools that actually help me solve that problem. And of course, having a sense of continuous improvement. DevOps is a journey. It's this idea that we will work in iterations, see what works, see what doesn't work, adjust, and continue, so on and so forth. Now, why is DevOps important nowadays, right? Came Roscoe 15 years ago, why it's still relevant? So the software development landscape, it's constantly going through shifts. New approaches are emerging, new stuff happening. The pace of business continues to accelerate, digital transformations continue to exist, and we have a more demanding and a more reliance on software for every aspect of our lives. If you go into a hospital, there's a big component on software that just manage everything. So just as an example. So pretty much any business nowadays has some sort of software reliance to operate. And in this world, organizations need to adapt quickly and they need to deliver solutions faster and reliable. At the same time, our customers have higher expectations than ever. They demand seamless experiences, instant gratification, and continuous improvement. They expect something not to just be functional, but to delight them and to be intuitive to use. So they have those expectations for us. And meeting those expectations require from us that we develop software in a nimble way, that we iterate rapidly, and that we incorporate their feedback as fast as possible. At the same time, competition for businesses is intensifying. New players are emerging all the time, trying to disrupt the markets that exist. They challenge those incumbents. They have different pricing models. They operate faster. So to stay ahead, organizations need to constantly innovate and find ways to reinvent themselves and deliver software faster. So again, this requires that we develop faster. That requires that we are able to incorporate those changes. So DevOps culture is something that we can use to do precisely that. It's the key to unlocking that agility. By breaking down the silos, by getting teams focused on the goals that we want to achieve, and fostering that culture of collaboration and continuous improvement, is this idea that we can be faster and not necessarily just breaking stuff. So what does DevOps bring to the table? It's this idea of accelerate time to market, right? Getting new features and products in front of users as fast as possible, gaining a competitive edge. The idea of continuous improving in quality, right? We have everyone on the same team. It's not my responsibility for quality or security. It's our shared responsibility. We want to enhance customer satisfaction, right? So we want to be able to incorporate user feedback as fast as possible, iterate on it, develop features, put them out there. This gives us increased efficiency, automations processes, reduces waste, and optimizes resource utilization. And of course, this idea of continuous innovation. We want to create a culture where experimentation is at the front of our eyes, and we want risk-taking to be encouraged and putting stuff out there. So turning briefly our attention to platform engineering. Platform engineering is something that focuses building the right infrastructure, tool chain, and automated processes that will enable DevOps teams to do what we want to do in a cultural way. We can think of it as the foundation on which some of these DevOps practices can be built, right? So platform engineering can provide self-service capabilities, environments that developers can use to be more efficient. If you attended Dotton Horowitz's talk yesterday, you will have a pretty good high-level idea of some of the things that that platform engineering can bring to the table. But at the end of the day, DevOps and platform engineering are just two sides of the same coin, right? So DevOps intends to bring that cultural shift, focusing on collaboration and shared ownership, while platform engineering provides us a technical foundation that will allow us to actually achieve that. They work together to create a high-performance software delivery machine. They're complementary, they're not competitive. That's the goal, right? So let me say that again. DevOps focuses on culture and collaboration. Platform engineering is about some of the technical foundation necessary to make it all happen. And of course, the software world is always changing, right? And DevOps and platform engineering are part of that world, so they are constantly changing. New trends are emerging all the time. GitOps, DevOps, DevSecOps, AI, powered automation, etc., etc., etc. And to stay ahead, organizations must continuously learning and adapt to these practices and leverage them over time. You will notice that during my presentation, when referring to DevOps, I mentioned no tools ever. right? I didn't mention any kind of tool, specific tool. And that was on purpose because DevOps is not about that. It's not about Kubernetes. It's not about GitOps. It's not about Argo CD. It's not about that. I could have mentioned many of them, right? So we've had many talks over the years talking about so-called DevOps tools, but that's not the goal. And the goal for this talk is to go back a little bit to the origins of DevOps and say, what is the why of DevOps? Whether you're just starting out on your journey or looking to take it to the next stage, we should have rooted in mind what DevOps set out to achieve and what are the goals that it wants to achieve. So collaborate, automate, and continuously improve. And remember that platform engineering will be your ally during this journey. It's something that will work together, and by working together, you will be able, you will be able to deliver software in an amazing way and delight your customers. So just to wrap up, DevOps is not dead. It's alive, it's thriving, and it's more important now than it probably was in the beginning. Remember that DevOps is about fostering this culture, collaboration, and continuous improvement, and I'll keep beating this drum. Platform engineering is providing that technical foundation that will allow us to do this on a technical way. By embracing both, you can achieve faster, more reliable software that will delight our customers and drive our businesses forward. So I hope I dispelled this idea that platform engineering or SRE or whatever practice it may be will deprecate DevOps. It's alive, it's evolving, and it's essential nowadays. Let's embrace this mindset, leverage the power of platform engineering, and unlock the full potential of software experiences. And this is an SRE conference, and I barely touched on SRE. So thank you, everyone. This is all from my part. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shout out.